They told me hush, but I can't stay quiet. Eyes to the stars, my mind's a riot. They call me crazy, they call me wild. Alone in the sky, I'm searching high. Government lies, I won't comply. UFOs fly, and I ask why. The truth's out there, I'll find my way. No matter the cost, no matter what they say.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of From the Office podcast. I'm your host, Ezekiel Vacuo, and today we're gonna talk about the geoglyphs and the Nazca Lines. We conducted a remote viewing about the Nazca Lines. It's a long and ever debated topic, why these lines are there. And if there is no explanation, there's always a ritual or a religious context to it. What we found out during remote viewing is something that works in this direction. But before we start with the Nazca Lines, let me pull up some sample pictures. Everybody knows probably the Nazca Lines. There are giant geoglyphs in the who are made in the soil of the Nazca region in Peru, and they depict spiders, birds, other animals, monkeys, dogs, all kind of symbols, and you can only see them from above. So if you wanna see them, and if you are on Earth, you're not able to see them. You only can see them from above, and that's why they were made. They were made to view from above. So before we go into the details, let's talk about corn. Corn is the designated god the geoglyphs are about. Corn is described as a god, a being that lived among the Nazca people. So it's not an abstract god who never was seen and up in the sky. It was a being living among the people of Nazca. He is described as humanoid with no joints and big eyes. And he came from above, out of the sky, from the stars. So you can make your own conclusion what this means. A lot of people say he is described without joints. They say it's probably a snake. He's described as snake. No, he's not a snake. He's described definitely as a humanoid being with arms and legs. And if we go to different descriptions in the 50s, 60s, and 70s of encounters in mid-Europe and Scandinavia, we often have descriptions of encounters or accounts of the encounters where people describe the beings walking without bending their knees. They are kind of walking on like on hover shoes or something like that. They described having boots on and were sliding over the ground. So that's maybe an explanation for the description of corn with no joints. I don't think it refers to a snake because he's definitely described as humanoid, so with arms and legs. And maybe the explanation is movement without the need of bending the joints. So that's corn. 3,000 years ago, the area where we find the Nazca Lines today was very fertile. And the people were considered to the time back then kind of rich. They were a trade between other areas in north and south, probably from Brazil, where they brought exotic birds, exotic animals, and they trade fruit or crops from the Nazca area because they were growing fruit and crops in this area 3,000 years ago. And that was possible because they say in the lore, which is orally passed to the next generation, that corn showed, or the people were taught by corn how to harvest the water from the mountains. So they could hydrate the soil for crops and fruits, and the area was fertile. There lived a lot of people, and this time was gone about 600, 200 before Christ. The climate changed and corn was not present anymore. As you can imagine, there is a being, probably a biological unit, that probably has an end of life and disappeared someday. And they connect, however, in the lore, the downfall of the Nazca area with the disappearance of corn. And what we see today at geoglyphs are taken from a lamentation. It's not a prayer, it's a lamentation of the people who lived there, and it has to do with corn, with his disappearance, and they connect his disappearance with the downfall of the area. And when they remembered the good times that were passed through the lore, they created those geoglyphs. And to give you an expression, we tried to catch everything we could. After the remote viewing, it was very hard because you have everything in your memory when you wake up or when the job is done, and you write it down. So we wrote the lore, the orally transferred lore or the lamentation down, and tried to translate it through AI into a language that was spoken probably back then, to give you an impression of the lamentation. We translated it in to English, and I just start the lamentation, or if you want, the prayer.
O kon kamachik, killapak yachanya, pachapi, kon intiwasi. Kaspichiana wasinta, pacha kelancha kupi. Pachamana kayani, runa kamachi kupi. Wata tapuimi, kon intiwasi mana kunkapa. Puna mamakta, pura kausaimi. Kon pachaka mana puunchan. Kaspichiana wasinta, runa mana kayani, kon kelancha kupi. Mamarapipi, kori puri kunapi. Kuyachkanmi, urakkunmi, kamachinyan, pachamana kunkapa. Inti kallariki, iwaywasin kunakinka, kamachitik simpi. Pachanyanmi, kausay latapuymi, yashanya mana kunkapa, kon pachaka mana punchan, kon kamachik, pachapiwaita, kon intiwasi.
As you could see, the people of Nazca make themselves responsible for the downfall, because they forgot about Khan. They didn't worship him anymore when he went away. So they connected their lack of memory or worshiping him with the downfall of the Nazca area. And that, the lamentation, is after the area got unfertile. So imagine there were they thrived there in this area and had a good life. Climate changed, and there was no more rain in the mountains, what could be harvested through canals or whatever. And the area started to dry out. So they connected it with, we forgot about Khan, and we didn't worship him any longer because we thought everything is so normal in our life. And that's how the geoglyphs were made, or why the geoglyphs were made. They wanted to get in contact. They heard about the lore of Khan, and they want to show him the pictures, the images they had in their lore, and they wanted to have back. There is this six-leg or multi-legged bird. And that shows it's the symbol for Khan has taken us under his feathers, his wings, to protect us. There's the hummingbird. That was probably traded. Different animals, monkeys, all that kind of animals that were traded, and they were missing. The people missed the time back then and want to communicate with Khan in the stars to go or to recreate the situation 3,000 years ago. That This is a communication with the people or with beings above is often denied. They often say it's a trail where people go along to pray or to worship some animals, but in fact it's a communication pattern with the people in the sky. I think this is a clear indication for beings, NHIs living under the people of Nazca 3,000 years ago. And the mainstream archaeology is telling us that the lines in the soil, the geoglyphs, were pathways where they worshipped the beings or the gods back then. But that's only a part of the story. I think it's a clear sign of a communication with people from above. They remembered the time back then where the area flourished and everything was great and they had a good time. The soil was fertile and they had trade with other areas, other countries maybe, and they had goods, exotic goods from the north and the south. And they lost everything through a climate change, through a radical climate change, and they connected it to not worshipping corn anymore. So the people who are left in the area made this lamentation to communicate these geoglyphs from the lamentation that was orally passed through the next generation. The lore is depicted in the sand of Nazca, and they were clearly communicating with people from above, and there is no doubt about it. They knew there are beings above them who once lived under the people of Nazca, and they want them to come back. They want them to recreate the time and show them or bring them back the water. And I think it's a clear indication for NHIs and the communication or the interaction between humans and NHIs. It's not only a ritual path or something like that. It's more than that. The lines have a reason. And the reason is communication. Communication with the beings above. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hear and see you next time. May peace be with you. Bye-bye.